This is what I'm going to cover today. Just a very short recap of SWR and the NanoVNA. And then I'm going to talk very briefly about the Saver software. Half of this presentation, like most of it, apart from the 86 slides, just kidding, is a practical demo. I'm going to download the software, I'm going to install it, I'm going to configure it, and I'm going to use it in real time. So it is a practical hands-on kind of thing. And if you brought your NanoVNA, if you brought your laptop and you have Wi-Fi, you can absolutely follow along because this is really straightforward and easy to do. So just as a short recap, I'm going to say SWR. Some people like to say SWR. I'm going to say SWR, but we know that SWR is all about power transfer. We're trying to make sure that we're transferring the right amount of power, the maximum amount that we can from our transmitter to our antenna. And let's be really clear. SWR does not tell us the efficiency of our antenna, how well it's radiating, how well it's positioned. Okay, it's purely measuring the power transfer. And in the amateur world, we use 50 ohms, obviously. So, we want those impedances to match, the 50 ohm impedances to match. And then when we have a mismatch, and we almost always do in the real world, we get reverse or reflected power. And in red, here's a good example of the reflected power coming back. And we know, as well as SWR, there's a term that is return loss. And return loss is the forward power minus the reflected power. That's another way of looking at it. So visually, if you look at the waves, the RF waves as they're being sent down the feed line to the antenna, so the blue line, the transmitter's on the left, the receiver is on the right here. The blue is the forward wave. The red is the reflected wave, and obviously what's going to happen is that they're going to combine and they're going to create a standing wave. We know that the waves combine, so that's where the term standing wave comes from. And in green, we have the standing wave, and we have the voltage maximum of that wave and the voltage minimum. And SWR, it's literally the ratio of those peaks and nulls. So it's literally the ratio of the V max and the V minimum on the pattern, of the standing wave pattern on the line. And this is the last thing I'm going to say on this, is that from a cheat sheet point of view, we obviously want to get the maximum power transfer that we can. And we know that many modern rigs have antenna tuners that can try to kind of match things as well as they can. Ultimately, we don't want to bring too much power back to the transmitter because it will potentially damage the transceiver. But we know that modern transceivers will do something called foldback, where if they see too much power coming back, they will reduce the power going out. But for the purpose of this presentation, again, not an expert on this, we always try to keep it under 2 to 1. Some people say 3 to 1. Anyway, I always try to keep it under 2 to 1. And this tells us that at 2 to 1, we're getting about 10% of the power reflected. At 3 to 1, we're getting 25% of the power reflected, which is quite a difference. So that was just a quick recap of what we're trying to do here. We're just trying to match, we're trying to get the maximum power transmission from our transmitter to our antenna. That's the whole purpose of measuring SWR. So that now takes us to, what does a VNA measure, a vector network analyzer? So there's two most important things. Actually, I can back up. I'll leave it there. There's two important things that you have in a VNA. You have S parameters, and these are standard analog networking S parameters, which I won't go into, but there's a whole doctrine around what they are and what they mean. And it also measures magnitude and phase. It has to be able to measure both magnitude and the phase of the waves. That's what makes it a VNA. So if we look at VNAs that we use, there's two S parameters that we generally care about. And I'm going to show this later, but you can see there's two outputs on my NanoVNA. One of them is labeled S11, which is port 1, and 1 means that it's reflected power coming out. And then I have another one here, S21, which will be able to measure power coming through, which we're not going to do for SWR measurements. So, and then obviously, as I said, you have to be able to measure magnitude and phase. And there are a lot of different VNAs on the market. There are big test bench VNAs. There are big handheld fancy schmancy units. They've been around for a long time. They're a very important test piece of equipment that can do a lot. Remember, I'm just going to talk about SWR. So I'm talking about a fraction of the functionality they can do. And in particular, I'm going to talk about, excuse me, the NanoVNA, and this one is a version 4 VNA. So one thing that's really important about these, they're open source. So there's no particular brand that makes NanoVNAs. Anybody can make it to the specifications. Just like we have open source software, we have open source hardware. So yeah, again, there's no official or unofficial one. They are good. Well, the current ones are a 4-inch screen. Older ones, I've seen 3-inch screens. You know, people can put whatever size screen they like on it. They're about $70 on Amazon. You do need to be aware of inferior units. Like if it's $20, I'd be a bit suspicious. And they can use different components in there that mean it won't be compatible with some of the software that we're going to talk about. And the software I'm going to talk about will generally work on older units. You can see there's a whole bunch of accessories there. Some plugs, you know, to plug everything in. But the most important things are going to be these. You can see them there on the right. These 3 little calibration things. And we are going to calibrate the unit. You'll have an open one. And when you look in the bottom of them, I don't think it'll show up on screen. Yeah, it won't. Okay, so there's one of them that has the little pin in there, or nipple, whatever you want to call it. That's the closed. There's one that doesn't, that's the open, and the silver one is 50 ohms. And if you're familiar with a Smith chart, then you've got a 50 ohm point, you've got a closed point, and you've got an open point, you know, to calibrate the device. Now, you can use the built-in screen. It's a touch screen. It works really well. If you're like me and your eyes are gradually getting worse the older that you get, it's not the most fun thing to use. And the thing that I find it really hard to kind of make changes and figure out if things are better and not better. And I find it hard to kind of get the right points. Now, funnily enough, this is a true story. I was using ChatGPT to figure out how to better measure SWR on my antenna. And it came back and said, use the NanoVNA Saver software. I'm like, the what? And so I looked it up, and there is a open source software program called NanoVNA Saver that these all support, and it you plug into the USB-C port and away you go. And so that's the topic of today's presentation. And I'll talk briefly about the setup for the hardware. Excuse me. I'll talk briefly about the setup, and then we'll do it live. I'll just you know, cut over to a live install. So was there a question there? Nope. Okay. So steps 1 and 2 are probably reversed, but your NanoVNA should have a USB port on it. It could be mini USB. Mine has a USB-C port underneath it. So just a standard USB-C port. I found I did not need to download any drivers. If it's some weird NanoVNA, it might have a unique driver, but I found that this works just out of the box. I did not need to download it. And by the way, I'm on Windows 11. The software will work on Windows, Linux, and Macintosh. So it's cross-platform. You download the software. You need to calibrate it, obviously, for each frequency. I'll talk about that in a minute, and then you launch it. So just a quick note, and I didn't know this, so I looked this up. So you have to calibrate the NanoVNA for every frequency range that you're testing. You can't just calibrate it once and then change the frequency ranges, because it just doesn't work that way. Because cables and connectors aren't perfect, because you know, there's real world things that change, you know, the internals of the device and all that. So if you want to measure 5 megahertz to 100 megahertz and then measure, you know, 144, you could have to calibrate it differently, but you can save that calibration so you don't have to physically do it every time. But to make it easy, what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to close the slides and I'm going to go live and I'm going to install all this live. So, okay. So I'm just going to end my presentation. Oh, you can see me calculating the SWR formula here. Okay, so I'll send the slides out. Can everybody see my browser?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so let me get this out of the way. Okay, so you can follow along if you like. So what I've done is I have just navigated to the GitHub page for NanoVNA Saver. So GitHub is just a repository where people put open source software. So you're not downloading from a bad place where you're going to get some ridiculous malware stuff, blah, 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 loaded. Not completely true, but true enough. Okay, you only want to get it from GitHub. This is the official download repository. And when you come here, it will talk about, you can get the source code if you want as well. It's written in Python. So if you're a programmer, you can actually change it. You could fork it. What you want to do is scroll down and you can see that it says releases. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but it says releases. There's 41 releases and it has a little button that says latest. I'm just going to click on latest and it will jump to here. And it will have the, looks like there's a Raspberry Pi version of it now. I'm going to get the Windows 64-bit zip file. So I'm just going to click on that. If you look up here, top right, it's downloaded it. So I'm going to open it up in a window here. It's a compressed file. I'm going to double click on it. And I'm going to extract this. It's just a single file application. There's no installer to run. So I'm going to extract it. It popped up on my other screen. So let me pull it over here. I am just going to put it in. I'm just going to dump it in a temporary directory because I already have it installed here. VNA Saver. Okay. Okay, so here we are. I'm in my temporary directory. I could drag this onto the desktop. I could drag it down to the taskbar. But for now, I'm just going to, I've downloaded it. I've extracted it. I'm now going to run it. Okay, now because it's not signed like as a Microsoft app, what I'm going to have to do is click on more info and then click on run anyway. So that's, you can set it up so it's trusted by Windows. This is just a trust protection. So I'm going to say run anyway. Okay, where did it go? Which monitor did it pop up on?
Not this one.
There we go. It popped up on my other monitor. Okay, so here we go. So this is a live demo, everybody. Okay, so this is a whole brand new install. So NanoVNA Saver has run on my machine. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to display setup down the bottom left here. Display setup. Okay, and it's already picked up my changes. I have installed it before on this machine. You always want to show lines because we know a NanoVNA makes a number of discrete things. You want to show lines so it connects them all. The point size, I've increased the point size up to 4 points. I've increased the marker size up to 20 points. I think the main thing is here, you want to get the text font size. I put up to 10. I think by default it's 8. I'll just put up to 11 to change it. There we go. That actually makes it easier to see. I clicked up show bands, so it will show the bands on the chart. But what I'm saying is this is the most important thing. And then when you look at displayed charts, I've selected just one single chart, the SWR chart. But have a look at all these charts through here that you can look at. Like there is a return loss chart, quality factor, phase, there is a Smith chart, there is a signal analyzer, gain. I don't even know what many of these mean. Okay, so this is a very powerful piece of software that you can do a whole lot. So the most important thing, like to start with, I'm just going to pick up this S11, so that's the first port, and that's the reflected power. So I'm going to be measuring the power reflected. I'm just going to show that chart. Okay, font size, and then just mess around with your point sizes and line thickness. To just don't put up with the defaults, because I think it assumes someone whose eyes are like 15 years old because they're very small. Okay, so when you get that all correct, what I'm going to do now is take my NanoVNA and turn it on. Okay, so turned it on. I'm going to plug it in. Okay, so my NanoVNA is now plugged in. You may have heard my computer beep. And see, there's a down here, it says rescan. So I'm going to rescan. And look at that. It pulled up COM3. And I'm just going to say connect to device. And so it's now connected to like this software is now connected to this. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is show you how to calibrate it, because it's super easy. It's easier than doing it on the device. Now, to test the antenna, I have an antenna here to test. I have a Wushen KGUV8E here. Actually has a mobile link TNC on it for APRS, but I have the antenna off it. So this is a tri-band handheld. So I want to measure the visual of this, and then I'm going to compare it to a diamond antenna. So this is a much better quality tri-band antenna from Diamond. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. So what I'm going to do is click on calibration, and I'm going to ignore everything there except the one button that says calibration assistant. Okay, so it says okay, once you're ready, press OK. Okay, press the short, take the short, so take the one with the little pin in the middle. I'm going to put it on S1. So I'm just screwing it on S1 now. Okay, that was it. Now it says put the open one. Okay, so the one without the pin in it. So I'm going to put that one on. Okay, and then it says put the load, and the load is silver. It's easy to tell the load because it's silver. So I'm going to put the silver on. Okay, now it says the steps for a one-port configuration are okay. If you wish to apply one port, press apply. Now, I did a mistake here. I should have set the actual the sweep that I was going to before I did the calibration. I just broke my own rules. So what I'm actually going to do, go back here, is I'm actually going to set it to 140 megahertz. And I'm going to set it up to, let's say, 460 megahertz. Okay, so I'm going to set that sweep, and then I'm going to quickly recalibrate it. Okay, it'll only take me, put the short on. Okay, remember, always select the frequency range. Okay, now the open. Okay, now the load. Okay, so now we're properly calibrated, and I can save that calibration. So I'm going to save that calibration as 140 to 460. So now I don't need to do that again. And if I wanted to, I could just load the calibration from here. So I am now calibrated for this. I now have a NanoVNA that's been calibrated to read between 140 and 460 megahertz. So the next step, I'm going to take the stock antenna, the whip. I'm going to put it on port. Okay, so I could use a little adapter cable, but I'm removing everything else, so I'm going to get the most accurate reading just by plugging it straight onto this. I'll put it down. If I go to my sweep settings, I can do a single sweep, a continuous sweep, or an average sweep. I'm just going to do a single sweep. I could give it a name. Call it Wushen. Okay, so and let's sweep. Okay, so there you go. There is the visual of this little whip antenna, and a few things that I can do here. So I can set markers. So I don't know if you can see where my mouse is pointing, but there's a thing here that talks about markers. I'll talk about all this after I set the markers. So I'm going to set the markers. So I'm going to put marker 1 down here. I'm going to click on marker 2. I'm going to put it down here. I'm going to click on marker 3 and put it, I don't know. Let's put it down here. And then I'll click on marker 4. And I'll put it down here. Now, I can have more or less markers. If I go into the display setup, it will let me add or remove different markers. So I don't worry about marker number 5. But if you now look at 1, it now shows up the top in the middle. It tells me the frequency, 146.4, and the visual is 3.274. And if I look at 2, you can see that the visual is 2.907. So you can see all the way through here. If you look at don't worry about 5, as I said, but you can see that sorry, I'm just scrolling just to kind of try to collapse this in a little bit. Okay, so the visual is not particularly great on this antenna. But what I could do is that I could save the sweep. I could save it. I could compare it to something else. But one of the things that I really like that I can do here is that I can kind of freeze it. I can set it as a reference. So what I've just done is set that visual as a reference. Oh, what I'm going to do first of all, I'm going to change the sweep settings to continuous. So I've now set it to a continuous sweep. Okay. Okay. So why is it not playing? By the way, you can see the bands here in gray. So okay, let's reset the reference. Is there a question there?
Nope, we're okay. Keep going.
Okay. Okay, so it's I need to sweep it again. Okay, that's what I did. I didn't click sweep. Okay, remember how I clicked on down here to set as a reference? So I'll actually do it again. So okay, so first of all, now is the sweep is continuous, and you can see as I pick up and move it around, the SWR is changing, which you would imagine that's a thing. So but the other thing I can do, I'm just going to sit it down, and what I'm going to do is select this set current as reference. Okay, and now as I move it around, you can see the light blue is where it was before. So I can actually see in real time how things have changed. So I thought that was a pretty cool capability. I should also mention, if I want to save this, I can click on files and I can either load a sweep or I can save the sweep as well. So I can save as many of these I want and I can pull them up later. But what I'm going to do now is reset the reference. I'll try to get it all in. Okay. Sometimes I've found if it gets out of control, like just click on reset and it'll kind of bring it back to being in the full screen. So what I'm going to do here is this is the whip. I'm going to set it as a reference. I'm going to stop the sweep and I'm going to take this antenna off. And I'm going to put on the big diamond tri-band. So what this should do, as soon as I sweep it, I'll just keep it sitting down. It will, let me just do a single sweep. Okay, so right now we're seeing a comparison between the rubber duck, the little tiny one. The stock one is the light blue, and the diamond is the, I don't know what it is, green. But now if I go back and reset my points, you know, actually, let's put that down here. If I'm just looking at the low points here. Anyway. But first of all, we can see that the visual of the diamond antenna is way better. But if we look at it now, it like point here one, that's actually at 152. It's got a visual of 1.1. And I can go to different points on this line and see exactly, that's now marker 4, like at 144, it's still not great. So actually I'm gonna move this up. So anyway, and by the way, this is lying on the ground. This is not in the air. It's not being held in the air. So it's just lying here on the ground. But you can, the whole goal of this session is just what you can unlock by doing this. And you know, can now compare, and I can see pretty clearly the diamond is a much better visual than the stock, which you would expect, but at least now I've clarified that. So I think that was the main thing I wanted to show. And you think about what we just did in the last 15 minutes, like downloaded the software, configure the display, set the frequency range we want to test, calibrate the device, save the calibration. We can then do a single sweep. We can do a continuous sweep, you know, and then we can start to look at the visual. We can make changes to the antenna, and we can, or the feed line. We can make changes to our setup and see how the visual changes. The last thing I'll just mention is that you can add other charts at the same time. So I'm going to add in the Smith chart. And for those that love Smith charts, here's the Smith chart, and actually has the reference in there as well. I'll reset the reference, take that out. So there's the Smith chart, and just for giggles, I'll put it on continuous sweep. And you can see how, by the way, as I'm moving this around, you can see how it's changing. So I think it's a little bit of fun. And again, for me, for someone that's new to RF theory, it's really good to be able to visualize, to be able to make changes and, you know, see these kind of things and see what they're doing. And as I said, I thought it was exciting because I've had the NanoVNA for probably 6 months, didn't know there was any software whatsoever. So if I go back to my slides. Okay, so again, that's what we did. Download the software, we connect it with USB, we set the frequency range, calibrated, and then we launched it. We did that. Okay, so that's the end of my session, and I'm willing to take questions. But by the way, there are other software that works with NanoVNA. I tried the official NanoVNA software. I couldn't get the driver working. I tried NanoVNA software. It worked. Saber. It worked the first time. So doesn't cost any money. It's a little bit of fun. So thank you very much for your attention. And I hope it was informative, and I'll take any questions. And remember, if you're going to ask me questions on antenna theory or SWR theory, like, I'm not the guy to answer those, but I'm sure one of you will.
Phil, this is Jerry, N5KA here. It's not so much a question. I'm just totally amazed at the economics of the little NanoVNA compared to when I first started working at my job. We had an HP network analyzer that was probably the size of a small refrigerator, and it cost $200 and something thousand, and that didn't have all of the doodads on it. Now you can do pretty much the same thing with pretty much free software and a $70 or $50, whichever type of NanoVNA you get. So that's just an observation that totally amazes me.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. So but so it certainly makes it easy. And by the way, I just loaded. Oh, it's still sweeping. So don't worry about that. I was going to say I was going to load the load the file from my NFED half wave. Let me see if I can load that. And turn the Smith chart off. But I agree with you. It's just amazing what the value you can get, and so just quickly, this is I have a myantennas.com NFED half wave. I won't worry too much, but you can see where it's resonant, like on 20 meters, 40 meters at a 7.4 megahertz. It's about 2.3. I'm going to move this down. 4. Oh, yeah, it's the most resonant at 14 at 20 meters. It's got a 1.060 VISWAR, but anyway, I won't. One thing I don't like, it doesn't remember where all the markers are, so you got to go and put all the markers out again and play around with it. But I save these setups, then I go move my antenna around, and because I'm changing the slope, I'm changing the angle, I'm changing the east-west, and it does change the VISWAR. So yeah, but I agree with you. The cost, and I also think it's amusing. We all have these NanoVNA savers. When I did this session at the American Legion Radio Club, everybody brought theirs in. We plugged, first of all, no one had heard of the software. We plugged 4 or 5 different ones into my machine. They all worked without a driver. They all displayed the data. So it's miraculous that for $70 or less, this is what you get. So I agree with that comment.
Phil, N8MR, quick question for you.
Yep.
When you're working with these NanoVNAs, have you ever had any luck with saving and reusing existing calibration? I noticed you went through the calibration steps again every time you were using it. That's just how I've been taught to do it. But supposedly they can do it. Have you had any success with that? And if so, do you have any tips and tricks for those of us struggling with it?
Yeah, I mean, I have. This is what I was taught, and this is where the experts can come in, is that you calibrate it once for each frequency range. So if you remember, when we went into calibration, we calibrated it for 140 to 460, so I could do a tri-band. I saved that calibration. If I wanted to do that again, I could load that calibration, and there's a calibration file that I created back in July. So I can load that, and it's calibrated. So I don't need to go through it every step, as long as I stick in the same frequency range. And I also should have mentioned, when you set up your sweep settings, you can pick the band that you want to sweep. You don't have to type in the frequencies. It has, like, if you just want to do 20 meters, it will, and it will pad the, you always want to pad out a little bit. You never want exactly like what you're trying to measure. You want to have some padding so you see what's there. So there's other things in here. I think that's the main thing as well. Like I've left a whole lot of stuff out, like the load calibration, save calibration. Have I had success? Yes, I'm using it. I have one for my NFED half wave, and I have one for my tri-band radios. So I don't recalibrate every time. I just load those calibrations. So to answer that question. And then the other thing is, please play around with the software, and you'll find stuff that I haven't even touched yet. So.
We have one more question here.
Okay.
Phil, Jim, KK6SVK.
Hey, Jim.
Which NanoVNA would you recommend purchasing from Amazon? I bought it cheaper and it didn't work well.
It's a really good question. I mean, I'm happy to put the link to the one that I got in the chat or in the presentation, but I think as long as it's around the like $70 mark, this was the advice that when I researched this, it said just beware if they look too good to be true, the price, than it is. And it's more that the maker compromises on some of the specs. So the chips they put in there may not work for the USB communication, for example. But if it's around the $60, $70, that seems to be the price point where you get a fairly good one. I'll put the one in, but I want to point out, as I said before, at the American Legion Radio Club, we had 4 different ones. And I think we had a couple of the old 3-inch screens. We had a couple of the newer 4-inch screens. Every one that we plugged in worked. So yeah, try the one you've got with NanoVNA Saver. It may be fine.
Hi, Phil. This is Rich, 86X. Could you show us the 2 antennas that you did the measurements on?
Sure.
Hold on.
Are you going to project me in front of them?
I gotta change where you're going, Phil. Hold on.
Okay.
Sorry, Nate.
It's all right.
Yeah, the split screen right there.
All right, now you're spotlighted there, Phil.
Okay. So this is my Wushen tri-band radio, and this is the stock one that it came with. So it's as I said, it's the one it came with. It's quite small. Just has Wushen written on it, so it's an OEM unit. The bigger one, this is the bag it came in. It's a Diamond SRH 940. So I'm a big fan of Diamond antennas and Comet antennas, for that matter. I have a Comet CX333 on my roof, and this is the Diamond. It is and I'll compare it alongside the other one. So yes, it's about 3 times the size, but it does a really nice job. So it's a really nice antenna.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay, so I just found the NanoVNA that I got while we were talking. Okay, so this is what I got in March 31st. I'll put it in the presentation. As you can see, it's $68 right now. A Cease 2 upgraded NanoVNA H4. To answer that question. Okay.
Good question. Does it come with all of the calibration things like the short, open, and
yeah, you can see. I don't know if you can see my mouse kind of circling around, but hang on. Annotate. Can I annotate it? There we go. Yes, it comes.
Yeah,
for $68, you get all this stuff.
amazing.
Including the calibration things. I mean, it's a great deal. And the only thing that I got differently, I bought a little kit with SMA to PL259 connectors, so I could plug it into my end-fed half wave into the RG58X. So I bought a separate little bag for $10 of like a whole bunch of different SMA connectors to use with it. I'll leave it up in case any of you want to write it down.
Do we have any questions from the chat from the people in the watching remotely?
No.
Nope, I guess not, Phil. So thank you again for your great presentation on this device and how the software works. We appreciate you considering all the illness and stuff like that happening at the same time.
Yeah, I managed to get through it, so I appreciate your patience.
Yeah. Well, you did a great job. We really appreciate it. Okay, I'm ready to turn this back over to our president.
Okay, I'll send the slides out. I'll just mention there's probably double the number of slides than I presented. I cut most of them out at the last minute because I thought it was better just to jump to the demo. And I included my email address in there. And yeah, my QRZ is not up to date. I'm still getting to that, but I look forward to meeting you all in person when I'm feeling much better. So thanks for the opportunity to present, and handing it back.